Good evening. I'm Bill Newman. I'm the director of the Western Massachusetts office of the American Civil Liberties Union, and I'm really sorry to miss the event in person, but I'm thrilled to have a few moments to talk with you, and first and foremost to wish the Bill of Rights Defense Committee a happy 10th birthday, happy anniversary. You do great work, and I'm thrilled to be part of it. When Anthony Romero, who was at the time the newly hired director of the American Civil Liberties Union, saw from his office the destruction of September 11th, he said to those around him, "This is an incredible tragedy, and we are about to see an enormous assault on civil rights and civil liberties in America." And when he said that, I think, prescient as it was and insightful as it was, he nonetheless could not have imagined at that moment what the next 10 years would bring to the United States. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act amendments, Guantanamo, domestic use of drones, domestic spying and warrantless spying on phone calls and emails and throughout the internet, the tapping of phones warrantless, the surveillance of by various you're going to edit this. What's the what I want for I'm sorry. The surveillance through GPS devices, biometric identification, government secrecy at a rate and in a way that was unimaginable a decade ago, the unleashing of the FBI, the invention of and the use of Homeland Security, the war on immigrants, the condoning of torture, fusion centers, a Muslim exception to the First Amendment. These things were unimaginable as of 9/11, and yet they are commonplace today. The threat to our civil rights and civil liberties is enormous, and Democrats and Republicans alike share in this. What has occurred during the last 4 years is in some ways as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than what occurred under George Bush's administration. Because when George Bush proposed various of these kinds of actions, Democrats would at least raise a red warning flag. But now, this kind of national surveillance state has become the norm. And there are few organizations and few voices who say, wait a second, this is wrong. This is a violation of our fundamental right to privacy. This is a violation of the entire fabric of American democracy. We say the federal government is not all-powerful. The people's rights to privacy is a paramount consideration. It is part of our constitutional democracy. And yet we are losing it at an enormous rate. And the acceptance of this is what's most dangerous. Who fights this? Well, I'm proud to say the American Civil Liberties Union does, the Center for Constitutional Rights does, the Electronic Freedom Foundation does, the Bill of Rights Defense Committee does. There are a handful of organizations that have taken on this fight and said, we the people can reclaim our constitutional freedoms. It is not a lost fight, but it is a constant fight, and it is something we need and must prevail on, because if we don't, our children and our grandchildren are never going to know those blessings of liberty. The Bill of Rights Defense Committee does something very important. It brings these facts of policy that have been enacted by the Congress and ordained by the executive branch of government down to the local level and says, this is how the surveillance affects you. This is how indefinite detention affects your right to free speech. This is how the FBI now has the ability and the right to surveil you, even though you've done nothing wrong. And there's no probable cause, there's no reasonable suspicion, and yet the person in your group who you don't know may in fact be an FBI agent. These are dangerous times. These are times that threaten the most precious of our rights. And so when the Bill of Rights Defense Committee brings up these local ordinances and brings up these local resolutions and says, FBI, not in my town. Homeland Security Fusion Center, not in my name. NDAA, indefinite detention, not to protect me. This is crucial. This is democracy at its grassroots. This is democracy in its most meaningful form. This is not going to be an easy fight. And BORDC has not taken on an easy fight. And if it was an easy fight, we wouldn't need BORDC. But it's a difficult fight. It is one that will go on. And way I feel on this, the 10th anniversary, is enormous gratitude that we can work together as coalition partners to try to regain the freedoms we have lost, and try to say that when the government does these kinds of oppressive invasions of our privacy, we can stand together and say, not in our name and not for all times.